Hello, Fuzzy Biker here. It's February 8th, 2022. There's La Rosa, the hot rod. We're going to take her for a run today. She's got about 4,900 and half a dozen miles maybe on her. And so we're going to try to break 5,000 with her today. I gave her a wash yesterday. Just retightened her chain. Did the lube. You can see it on the floor there. But anyway, we're going to go see what we can find. Something I noticed when I was washing her yesterday, let's see if I can get a good look at it here. I ride so much gravel that I'm getting this is all getting blasted here. You can see you can feel that it's like sand, very rough sandpaper. But in the last 5,000 miles, I've probably ridden, I bet I've ridden 3,000 miles of gravel on her because she's just so much fun to do that with. But today, my goal is I'm going to stay on the pavement. Why am I going to do that? Well, it's a nice day. I want to get a lot of miles in. I want to see how she does on that kind of a deal. When I first got her, I did a lot of that, and after I started getting on the gravel, it became a lot more fun to just get on it, head out of town and get on gravel. But today we're going to try to stay on gravel as much as we can. Anyway, La Rosa, let's go, Wahoo! Hello from the mini-tropolis of Marnie, Iowa. La Rosa right there, Fuzzy right here. It's a bit of a windy day, sorry about that. I'm going to give you the lowdown today on this hot rod, the brutally honest 5,000 mile review. Had her just a little over 4 months. I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, just like the movie title on her. I had a little dirt on her now. I said I wasn't going to drive much off-road, but I lied. Good looking motorcycle. So, let's start with what's bad. How's that, huh? Right to the point. You're not going to go very fast on this motorcycle. If you're in town, you're going to be riding with your buddies, you're going to be last. If you're on the gravel, you have a good chance of being ahead of everybody else because this bike does gravel really well. The wind protection on this bike is right there. That's it. Look at it from the cockpit size. Not very much. It's very good at keeping the wind off your chest, where that wind is really blowing down here. But your head's in the air and so are your hands. That's why I've got these mitts. Another thing that I've had problems with is my compass. Right back here is never correct. For a while I read southeast all the time. I thought I was going to end up in Florida. Never made it that far, I guess. But now it just flashes, and it's not a big enough deal for me to take it back into the dealer and have it fixed. At some point maybe I will, but who knows. The other problem I'm having is the clock keeps resetting back to not all the time, but periodically. And I've asked the dealer about that, and the only thing that's supposed to do that is if you have a short, or the battery gets unhooked. I took the leads off the battery, cleaned them. I also cleaned the negative end of the cable, the frame side, and still does it. So the bike runs and starts fine, so what should I do about it? I'm going to live with it for a while anyway. Maybe I need a new battery, who knows. But here, I'm going to give you the skinny and the good. I love the bike. This is the best motorcycle, one of the best motorcycles I've ever owned, certainly in the top 3. The fun factor is just blows everything out of the water. I've entertained myself with this thing in the last 5,000 miles. I've entertained myself just to the highest degree. I mean, it's a lot of fun to ride. It's a lot of fun to look at. It's a lot of fun to mess with. It's a great bike. I love the front tire. I love the way this thing, back up a little bit. I love the way this thing goes down a gravel road. I can roll down a gravel road at 60, 70 miles an hour. Washboard, ruts, whatever, not big ruts, but ruts. That big 21-inch tire just goes right over them. I've ridden other bikes with 21-inch tires. They seem kind of heavy. This one is not like that. It's probably heavier than a smaller tire would be, but for a 21-inch, it's great. I love the front tire. I did have some problems with the back tire in that I wore it out in 4,400 miles. Got a big staple. So is that a problem, or is that just rider usage, huh? I replaced it with this Trail Max Mission, Dunlop Trail Max Mission, and I've got 600 or 700 miles on this now, probably 600, and it's been a great tire. She works great on the highway. She works great in the dirt. She works great on the gravel. A little jittery on gravel, unless it's really cold out. I had twice that I've had it out is 33, 34 degrees, and I actually had to pull over because I kept thinking I had a flat tire, but it wasn't flat, and none of my, nothing was loose in the back. So, but 40 degrees, it ran just fine. It's a little jittery. I did take a little bit of air pressure out of it, and hoping that'll help. I haven't been out on a 30-degree day since then yet. Maybe tomorrow, who knows. Anyway, I've just had a ball with it. It's a good looking motorcycle in my opinion, and does everything right. So the rest of this video, we're going to talk about the individual components. We'll talk about the engine, we'll talk about the suspension, we'll talk about well, just everything on it, what I've added to it, everything I've done, every modification I've done to it, and I'm also going to tell you about what other modifications I'd like to do. At least I'll try to get to that. And I'm also going to tell you about what I'd like to do with it this year. I want to take several trips. I'm going to tell you right now. I want to take several trips on nothing but gravel, and I want to take several trips on nothing but pavement. Motorcycle Museum is about 4 hours away from my house. If I do that all on pavement, I think I'll do that on this bike at least once this year. And then the other thing is a big trip through Loess Hills. That's both gravel and pavement, about 450 miles. And that should be a lot of fun too. I'm also going to do a lot of total gravel rides on her also. And you know what? This bike is the one to do it on. Hey, I'll catch y'all later. Hey, here we go. 4,999.9 and 5,000 miles. Wahoo! Just south of Villisca. We did it. We did it. I know I said I wasn't going to go on any gravel, but here I am. We've made our way up into Guthrie County. This is prime Bigfoot area. Hey, there's a little mud right there. Dirt road, dead end. Okay, let's go find it. Nice sunny hilltop right here. Take a look at that scenery. Beautiful rural Guthrie County. There is La Rosa. Well, she's still pretty clean. I'd like to talk about her engine, her suspension, her brakes, and ooh, look at all that yuck down there. Anyway, tell you what I've learned about her since I've gotten her. So the engine, 411cc, 2-valve. The reason I bought the motorcycle is because I like the way it looked, and I like the engine. The simplicity of it. Just pop the tank off and you can get to the valves. There's 2 little valve ports on the top of the valve cover that you just take off. And did you hear that noise? Wild critters out here? Something going on? Anyway, it's tuned for torque. It's got 25 horsepower and 24 foot-pounds of torque, I think. And that torque comes in very low. So around 3,000, it starts picking up pretty good on torque. And by the time you get to its max torque is between 4,000 and 5,000, a little over 5,000. And that's where the bike, when you're going down the road at 60 or about 48, 4,900 RPM at true 60, at indicated 60, you're going about 4,600. But anyway, so I really do like the engine. Very good, easy going. It does have a stalling problem, or did anyway. It's nothing like it was. I was going to tell you that the stalling problem had absolutely gone away. Hear that wind? But yesterday I stalled it 3 times in the Baxter Cycle parking lot. Luckily there were only about a dozen people standing around watching me, so it was only humiliating. But anyway, it's an air-cooled engine with an oil cooler from the factory, and I like it. It's good. Electric start only, of course. The transmission is a 5-speed manual. It looks like a short shifter. However, the axle point or the pivot point is right here ahead of the foot peg. So you've got, it works very well. Very smooth 5-speed box. You know it's got a clutch that, this clutch seems to, doesn't feel weak, but it feels small, but it works very well. It has very good feel, I would say, good feel. And the transmission itself is smooth. Of course, a final drive chain, and I just adjusted that the other day. I'm amazed I haven't had to adjust it anymore than I've had to. It really works very well. It's an X-ring chain, so that's nice. Jumping over to suspension, she has a 8.6 inches of ground clearance, I think there's 7.9 inches of front suspension and about 7 inches on the rear. It's a monoshock with an adjustable compression. I've never adjusted it. I'm kind of happy with where it's at. It's a little rough on the road. I don't want to say that. It's a bit rough on the road, but especially if it's a bumpy road. But on these kind of roads, it's perfect. You know, on gravel and dirt roads. I'm not going to take it on dirt today because we've got a lot of this melting snow. But anyhow, 21-inch front tire, which I just love. And I said earlier, you know, it feels very light for a 21. I've driven others that are heavier. The back tire is a 17. I can't remember the numbers. The size is, it says 120/90. I've had really good luck with the stock tire that comes with the bike. Works really well. This is a Dunlop Trail Max Mission, and I think I talked about that earlier. In the super cold, it gets really weird, but it works well otherwise. And on the pavement, it works very well, and on dirt, it works very well. It's just on gravel in very cold weather. At 40 degrees, it's fine. Today, it's about 40. It's below 40s. Going to the well, let's see what else. Suspension's non-adjustable on the front. I already told you. Compression on the back. The brakes, they're bi-bree brakes, which means bi-Brembo. I think they are set up for off-road riding. They're ABS front and rear. You can shut off the rear ABS. I think the front disc is around 300 and the back one is 240, I'm guessing. I can't remember. But they work very well. I really like the brakes on this bike. They feel great on this kind of stuff, and on the look at these raccoon tracks on the back roads and gravel and oh, bald eagle over yonder. See them? We see those all over right now because they're coming in transient from the north. But anyway, what was I talking about? The brakes. And on pavement, they're adequate. They're not poor. They're not even. I think they're above average even for a motorcycle like this. Meaning that this is a ADV all-terrain motorcycle. So what else can I tell you about her? The lighting, let's talk about lighting. It's got it's the best light of all three. I have 3 motorcycles right now, and this is the best headlight of all of them, and this is a crappy headlight. I'm going to get an LED bulb in there. I should have bought one the other day when I was at the store, but I didn't. So when I was at Baxter's, they have them there. They're like 30 bucks or something like that, 40 bucks. Okay, a little bit about the dash. So it's analog, speedometer, tachometer, fuel gauge. There is a compass. Mine does not work. Some people's it does, some it doesn't. Mine it does not work, and I'm not worried about it enough to take it in to have it fixed. There's an ABS shutoff switch. There's a, when you turn it on, there's a clock over here. There's an ambient temperature gauge, which is always wrong. Mine's always off about 8 degrees. It's right when you start the bike, but when you get going, the sensor is actually located back here. So when you get going, the temperature's off about 8 degrees. There is a kit you can buy to move it, but I'm not worried about that. It doesn't have a, there is a fuel gauge. It doesn't have a reserve light or low fuel light, but what it does have is when you get to, I can't remember if it was half a gallon or a gallon, something like, I think it's a gallon. This will switch to, it'll keep the trip A, it'll keep the trip meters, but it'll start flashing and it'll say trip F, and it'll start back at 0 and it'll start ringing up miles. So once you hit reserve, it'll let you know how far you got to go or how far you've gone since that indicated item. But it works really well, and I like this combination. When I first saw these bikes, I thought this was kind of a, yeah, what are they doing here? And I'll tell you right now, I really love this setup. It's easy to see. It's easy to, everything works really well on it. I've not had the fogging problem that they've talked about with other motorcycles. Let's talk about accessories. So I got to computing this up the other day, and I really haven't put that much on this. Maybe $300 or $400 worth. Oh, back to the brakes real quick. The pads are organic, and I drove one of these from a fellow friend of mine in Nebraska, and he's got metallic pads on his, both his Interceptor and his Enfield. That's what I'm going to go to on the next, when these need replaced. But okay, accessories. Well, I just told you I'm going to change the brake pads when these wear out. I did have to raise this. I did the fender raise kit, which raises up that amount, looks like about an inch. And the reason I did that was, I think I have a video where I got stuck. I kind of show that. And this all filled up with mud, and you know, the front tire wouldn't turn, and so I had to push this thing, I don't know, 100 feet or 200 feet. And that was no fun. Because I put this on, going down the road, this thing will, at 60 or more, this thing will spit rocks up and they'll fly up and they'll come back at you. And so, you know, that's no fun. So what I've done is I just picked it up yesterday, a headlight cover, one of these wire ones, and I'll put that on. I'm gonna wait till I get that bulb to put it on though. So I'll probably get that bulb in the next day or two. But anyway, ignore that. The next thing I did, just coming up here, is wheels. I put these air pressure sensors on. I have them on my Honda, and I just love them. I got one on the front, one on the back. And what that does is every day, I ride motorcycle every day. So every day I get my phone out and I turn it on, and it tells me what the air pressure is in both my front and back tire. I have that for, the app allows you to put a whole number of bikes on there, and I've got this one on there, La Rosa. And it also tells, you know, it has a range that you put in for the front tire of this bike and the back tire of this bike. And it lets you know if you're within range, and if there's a catastrophic air loss, your phone will start going bop, bop, bop. It just makes all kinds of noise, so you become aware of it very quickly. Going up here, when I got the bike, the mirrors were what I would call okay but not good, not bad but not good. What I didn't like about them was I had about this much shoulder in, so I put these adjusters, these extenders on. They lift them up slightly and out. I put them on both the front, or I'm sorry, both the left and the right mirror. And I love these mirrors now. I have no desire to change them at this point. I'm not an off-roader really. I'm a gravel roader and a dirt roader, but I'm not an off-roader. You know, I don't go through the woods. So I think that was a really good investment. I think they were like 20 bucks. I got them off Amazon or someplace like that. Baxter's sells them, Baxter Cycle, but they were out. I put these booties on, and these are a no-name brand. I paid 25 bucks or 30 bucks for them. They're black and red. They've got this illuminative, you know, a reflective stripe on them. They are, I did not know this when I bought them, but they're lined. I've got these wool gloves on right now, but I can actually ride without gloves. If it was a little warmer, I would be without gloves. Yesterday, for a large part of the day, I was without gloves. I put the, of course, I put this phone holder on. You know, modern day, you got to have those, right? Let's see, what else? Oh, this thing right here, the foot. That was a big deal. That is 3.5 by 2 3/4 wide, you know, and that lets me, anywhere I go, I can stop just about anywhere and put that kickstand down and it'll hold its place. No problems at all, no problems at all. Well, what else am I going to show you here? Got a net for cargo. I put these racks on the back, and they're hard to find, these smaller ones. These are smaller. I didn't want the big racks. They make bigger racks, but I didn't want those because I just wanted these small bags. And I got these bags off of Amazon. These are exactly the same bags I have on my Harley. I've got a Harley, and they're just the right size. I think they're 10 by 10 or something like that, by 4.5 or 3.5. 4.5 looks like. But they work excellent, and I just love them. Work very well. Well, what else can I show you? Got Bigfoot on the back there, Bigfoot on the front there. Well, I think I covered it. What else do I want to do with this thing before it's all over? I don't know. I'm very happy with these foot pegs. I like them. If they ever wear out, I'm going to replace them with those pivot pegs. A friend of mine has those on his bike, and they were great. He rides a lot more off-road than I do, so that makes a difference. I did buy a Trail Max Mission for the front, and when this tire wears out, I'll put that on there. You know, I talked about that already. I'm a little, I want to see how this tire wears. You know, it's got 600 miles on it about, and it seems to be wearing really well. That's why I bought it. And it does everything really well except, like I said, cold weather on gravel. Other things I'd like to do, I don't know. I don't know, but I'm gonna go Bigfoot hunting. So I will, next stop we'll talk talk about some other stuff about these hot rods. We are still in Guthrie County. We're just climbing into the Springbrook Park area. There's the signage, some of it anyway. Kind of a beautiful park. Used to be on the King Farm, I think it was called. And donated at the turn of the century, the 19th century, from 18 to 1900, right around 1900, 1905, something like that. Beautiful area. If you're from around these parts, you know this is one of the more attractive parks around. Anyway, what I didn't cover in the last stop was maintenance. And so there's 2 valves per cylinder that have to be adjusted every 6,000. Oil change every 6,000. Air filter is very easy to get to. It's under the seat. And I'm on my second air filter, and I've cleaned them both already. When you drive a lot of gravel, you get a lot of, you know, grit, and I've got more ordered. I'm just going to change that as a perishable item on a regular, you know, more than regular basis, probably every 2,000 miles, and clean it every 500 or something, depending on how much gravel I run. They're pretty cheap, and they're pretty important. The chain has to be adjusted. It says every 500, but I check it every 500, and it does not need adjusting. That is the boat ramp, and I'm not going to go down there. Too much ice. Spark plugs every 10,000. I think it says 9,000, but you know, I'm going to change it every 10. And I don't know what's in there, but everybody talks about putting NGK in. Maybe I'll do that. The bike. What do I think about Royal Enfield as a motorcycle? I think you can tell already if you've watched the video this far. I love it. I think it's a beautiful machine. It's not very powerful. If it needs anything, another 10 horsepower would make it nicer. Of course, if it had 10 more horsepower, you'd want 10 more, you know. But it's a beautiful machine. It handles very well. It does what it's supposed to do very well. And solo riding on gravel roads or whatever, it's just a ball. You know, I went 181 miles yesterday, and I just had a ball on this thing. I've ridden with my Harley friends before, and you know, we're all older guys. We don't race anymore, but it kept up just fine. I didn't have to play catch up or anything like that. Worked very well. The handling is good. The wind protection. One of the drawbacks is there's very little wind protection on this bike. And that's also one of the pluses. You know, if you're taking this in a rugged terrain like my good friend Todd does with his, you don't want a big fairing or windshield on the front because it's just going to break. So this is a more off-road. This is more of a regional ADV bike, adventure bike, or even a local adventure bike. You know, within 100 miles of home for sure. Within 200 or 300. Oh, look at that! Look at that! Can you guys see that? Look how white that bird is on that branch. Holy cow, what a okay, I digress. As far as the brand goes, what do I think, you know, not just Royal Enfield, but the Himalayan brand. Okay, the brand itself, Royal Enfield, I have been incredibly impressed with everything of theirs that I have ridden. And one of the key things that they do is good looks, in my opinion. You know, I like the style that they show, classic, you know, kind of a old school style, and I like they built in fun. Every one of the motorcycles that I've ridden has had the fun factor is very high. Everything on it, you know, the Interceptor, absolutely amazing motorcycle. The Continental GT I haven't ridden yet, but I'm going to get myself on one of those very soon. The Meteors, I've ridden 2 or 3 of those. I think I've ridden all 3 of them, all 3 of the different models, which are just styling changes. Hey, look at that ice. Anyway, those bikes all work superbly. I just absolutely enjoy them. They're not fast, you know, they're not quick, but they're smooth, and they're, you know, they just do what they're supposed to do very well. This is Springbrook Park. Over yonder, straight ahead of us, is the old CCC shelter. There used to be a diving platform in there when I was a kid. We'd come out here with a 3-story diving platform. There's a trail around this lake, and there's several foot trails all through this park. including that one right there. As far as Himalayan goes, the motorcycle as it is, I think, is a beautiful thing. The stalling, they had a little bit of a stalling issue when I first bought this bike. It was terrible, and by the time I got 1,200 miles on it, it was all but gone. And it is a cold-blooded machine, so on a day like today, it seems to, that stalling thing seems to rear its head a little more, although it hasn't, you know, very much today. But the motorcycle handles well. It's got good low-end torque. It's you know, unless you need to be on the highway, interstate. I mean, if you need to go 70 miles an hour at a sustained for a long time, this is not your bike. But you know, if you want to do a lot of on-offing, this is. I know when I bought this bike, I bought it because I wanted to be able to hop on into my driveway, drive paved roads to get to a certain area, and then go, you know, get off road and see the sights. The other thing I wanted to do was when I was out cruising around, you know, come upon something, oh, it's a couple miles of gravel, hey, take it, no problem. And this is that bike. This does it well. What I found is, since I've gotten this bike, especially in the last, well, now that I'm used to it, I find myself leaving town and just hopping right on the gravel, hopping right on the dirt, and just, that stuff is so much fun on this motorcycle. Now yesterday this was all pavement and it was an absolute ball. The bike performed well. What should they do in the future? There's talk of a 450 Himalaya. They even have a you know, I don't know if it's a computer rendition or whatever. It looks really good. It looks like a real thing, but I don't know. They've talked about that. It's a liquid cooled model. If they could do that and maintain the character of this bike, I'm all for it. If they don't want to do that, what they could do is lose, you know, get this bike to lose 50 pounds, 30 pounds, anything. This bike is pretty heavy. That's why it's an ADV and not a dirt bike. It's just too heavy to be a dirt bike. You know, it does very well until you get yourself in a spot and then you have to push. And when you have to push, you realize really quick how heavy it is. There are mounds out here, and I don't know if those are Indian mounds. We were always told that when we were kids. But I can't seem to back that up with anything on a state website or a university website. There's talk about the 650 Hemi, and you know, Baxter Cycle actually made one. They took a 650 Interceptor and put a different front end on it, and you know, jacked it up a little bit with the different shocks, and it looked really cool. I don't know how it rode. I wanted to ride it, but it got sold before I got that done. Now, there have been some really good renditions released. My favorite one has the Himalayan tank, like this motorcycle has with the 4-gallon tank. The other one has the Interceptor tank on it. Those bikes would probably be more, you know, probably 95% on-road with a little bit of off-road, you know, so if you had to drive 100 miles and 5 miles of gravel, you'd be okay. And they look really cool, and I think those would be some fun bikes if they can keep the price down. You know, if they can keep them below 7,000, that would be a good bike, because at 9,000 you can buy a, you know, you can already start buying a Tiger, which the Tiger has 80 horsepower and will go, you know, 100 plus miles an hour. So that's the future. Is it the future? I don't know. That's what, you know, is possible with this brand. Oh, okay, I'm rambling. Okay, let me tell you this. I love the bike. It's a great motorcycle. 5,000 mile, brutally honest, 5,000 mile, it's awesome. It's an awesome bike. I'm glad I bought it. I've never regretted it for a minute. I've upgraded a lot of stuff on it without spending a fortune. I don't plan on doing a lot of expensive upgrading on it. Hey, look at that, green John Deere. If I ever wear the suspension out or anything like that, yes, I'll upgrade at that point. I've driven one with a Hagen shock, something like that, and the other one with YSS shocks and front ends, and the handling difference was profound. It was very, you could feel it. Great bike. You know what? I'm gonna enjoy the rest of this day on this hot rod bike, and you all get out there and do the same with yourselves. Life is short. Get out there and enjoy it. Live it to the max. Wahoo!